Speaking of that, our friend Pete Hoekstra, former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, now we've cleared up any communications discrepancy, and Pete is with us. Pete, we were just talking about the Ukraine violence prior to this weekend's election. What kind of impact can we expect from the renewed violence there?
Well, what you're going to have with the violence is you're going to have continued uncertainty. You're going to have continued chaos and unrest. I had a discussion earlier this week with one of your frequent guests, Dick Morris. Unrest on the ground and a populace that demonstrates that they are going to fight the Russians and that they are going to be opposed to Putin's takeover of the rest of Ukraine may be the most effective and the only tactic that much of Ukraine has left as the West sits on the sideline.
Now, Putin says the chaos is a result of a state coup in Ukraine that's being supported by the West. What do you make of this?
Oh, I don't think I don't really believe a whole lot of whatever Putin says. Putin's playing this whole thing, and as you guys were just talking about, as I was able to listen in, Putin really has been playing the West perfectly. The deal with China that you guys were just talking about is another example, demonstrating to the West his flexibility and his capability to maneuver in a demonstration that we haven't seen out of the Obama administration, or for that matter of fact, we haven't seen it out of our allies out of Western Europe either.
Pete, I just want to drill down a little more. We take a look at the, quote, pro-Russian forces. Is there any way to separate the ethnic Russians who live in the Ukraine, who may sympathize with the Russian Federation, with bona fide Russian troops who may be inside the Ukraine?
I think if you're on the ground there and some of these individuals, you're having the fighting and you're having, you're capturing people and those types of things, you may be able to differentiate. But even in that situation, it would be very, very difficult to differentiate, because whatever forces Russia has in there will be very, very limited. There'll be special forces operations. They will be the people that will be the advisors. They'll be somewhat in the background. I would wager that most of what you're seeing in the Ukraine right now are ethnic Russians with some assistance, guidance, counsel, and training from Russian Special Operation Forces.
Now, Mr. Hoekstra, another thing we wanted to get to really quickly. The New York Times published an article, or an ad, from the Investigative Project on Terrorism. Now, talk to us about that ad. We're already hearing it's called Islamophobic. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I am a fellow at the Investigative Project on Terrorism, and we thought it was finally to take our campaign and the work that someone like Steve Emerson has done for 20 years and raise the profile of it. What has happened with Islamic groups here in the United States, Islamist groups, is they are intimidating policymakers. They are intimidating the media. It's all about an intimidation campaign that says radical Islam, the belief of radical Islamists, has absolutely nothing to do with terrorism on an international basis and on a domestic basis. And what they're doing is they are taking away and they are endangering free speech because through this intimidation, what they are also doing is they are making America less able to defend itself, because if you cannot define and identify the problem, what does that mean? It means when you go into Fort Hood and then you have Hassan and you describe that as workplace violence, you will get a whole different set of policy initiatives to deal with workplace violence than you would if you accurately identified what happened at Fort Hood as radical jihadist, a terrorist attack on our soil. But, the Obama administration treats this as a law enforcement domestic violence or workplace violence issue, so we won't be able to do it. And
we talked about this.
The Investigative Project on Terrorism, really the leading organization on identifying the threats, that it's time to call out the Islamic groups that are intimidating and attacking free speech, and make sure that we start identifying this threat accurately.
A couple weeks ago, we actually discussed the fact that this, Islamophobia and the fact that you really can't speak out against it is what allowed the Fort Hood and those type of things to occur, because we actually knew about this, but because it was seen as racist, we weren't allowed to act on it.
It's a frustrating
that's
thing.
exactly right.
Political correctness.
That's a discussion
Yes.
and debate that's going to keep going.
Pete Hoekstra, we always appreciate your insights. We look forward to you returning with another Daily Intelligence Brief very soon. Thanks so much for your time, sir. When we come back, what about political correctness and a change in vocabulary from this administration and the Department of Defense? Why don't you tweet us your comments at Newsmax TV, #AmericasForum.